Imagine this, you're a high-achieving MPA, a former White House intern, a UN youth delegate. But to fund your dreams and learn an industry from the pavement up, you spent 8 years behind the wheel, completing over 6,500 trips as a rideshare driver. Most people would hide that part. Crystal Ferguson turned it into a blueprint. She tracked patterns, not passengers. She listened more than she pitched. And eventually, she built Elegant Chauffeur, a luxury transport agency serving Fortune 500 companies. Today, she's the first Black woman building a mobile energy dispatch tech company, tackling the EV charging crisis with Chargency. All of this sits on top of a bigger mission. Crystal is an author, a leadership strategist, and a multi-hyphenate entrepreneur. She's built a career at the intersection of faith, service, and structure. Through her firm, Created to Inspire, she's helped founders turn their lived experiences into sustainable businesses. This episode is about revenue, it's about resilience, and it's about using every part of your story to create leverage. I'm Stephen Standery, and this is the business behind the story. Crystal, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Stephen. I love that introduction.
A pleasure. And something that I left out of the intro is that you are my sister.
Yes. And this is our first time on video
Yes,
meeting each other.
yes. And I think we've known each other since, wow, it's probably 2006. You sure?
2009.
Okay, well, you're the one good at math, so I'll take your word for it. I have my script with my questions,
Sure.
but I don't know where this will go.
Okay.
So let's start before the business, before the luxury fleet, before the tech platform, before the pitch wins and partnerships, because the person always comes before the brand. So
Uh,
where did you grow up and what did you learn early about work, money, and responsibility?
Great questions. I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, in the United States. And what did I learn first about money, work, money, and responsibility? Well, I was raised by a single mother, and
Mhm.
she worked 12 hours a day, and that's not including commuting. And I realized that work, money, and responsibility, if it's not aligned properly, it'll steal time from your actual life. And I saw my mother overwork and it left her depleted, I would say, to the point where I was like, I want to work less, but still have more impact and still have more money. So it's a matter of getting the right information. I learned very early that, especially living in America, people live in two different Americas. And
Yeah,
I was able to get exposed to both kinds, right? Because growing up where I grew up in Brooklyn was different from where I grew up when I was living in Maryland with
yeah,
a host family who was very wealthy. And I got to see both sides, right? Where time freedom was different from financial freedom. And it just opened my eyes to know that there's a different world that I can create.
yeah,
And I think it was important to see that. And I value my mother's experience and I value my host parents' experience. And I was able to fuse it together to create like my own blueprint on how I
yeah,
want to develop and create the life that I have.
yeah. So before I go any further, I have to clear up something for our listeners and viewers. We're brother and sister, and we both grew up with single parents. So they can do the math from that to see where that goes. Now, before entrepreneurship entered the picture, what did you think your life and career was supposed to look like?
Great question again. I always knew that I would be a teacher or an attorney. And somehow I've become both, but unconventionally, right? So when I was little, I would always like apply what I've learned and then I would teach other people, whether it's my classmates or Even when I was in college, I would come back to my church and I would teach small groups of things that I was learning at school. But then I eventually went into education. I'm a
Yeah.
former high school guidance counselor. And so while I was doing that, I was able to teach three classes: life skills, English, and two levels of English. And so I did end up becoming a teacher of sorts.
Yeah.
And then I wanted to be an attorney because I was very passionate about juvenile justice. And so I fused that energy when I was working with young people. And I did it more on the prevention side because education and prison kind of go like hand in
Yeah.
hand sometimes. But now I founded a nonprofit for justice impacted families. And so I serve as an advocate for those families that are affected by incarceration. So I do feel like I am an attorney, not in the traditional sense, but I am
Yeah.
still advocating and creating pathways to be able to bills passed and laws passed that affect families and future generations. So my partner was formerly incarcerated. He was wrongfully convicted and he served 10 years in New York State prison. And in navigating that process, we both learned that people just don't know how to navigate that experience. Whether you are wrongfully or rightfully convicted, people need to know how to navigate that. And we were looking for that, couldn't find it, so we created it. He has since been home for the past 4.5 years, and he is thriving. Like, he is a business owner. He got his degree while he was incarcerated. He owns multiple businesses. He is thriving. But so many people don't have a support system or just the wherewithal and the stamina emotionally to keep going even after incarceration. But we created the wellness perspective for justice impacted families, and it's called
Yeah.
Loving You into Freedom.
As I mentioned, you're such a serial entrepreneur. What let me dig into your relationship a bit. I mean, I've seen the posts over the years on social media. How did you make it work? The relationship, you being incarcerated, you be all the stress, all of that. How did you make it work?
I made it work because, well, we made it work through
Yeah.
communication, through effort. We wrote letters before we had access to each other through digital tablets. I would go to visit him every week and on holidays because, like, just seeing him was just
Yeah.
such a, like, it was everything for me. So I saw him every single weekend for the most part up until COVID. And then there was like a 6 to 8 month window where I didn't see
Yeah.
him at all. So then that increased like our conversation. We had the tablets at that time, so I could send him pictures. He could write me emails. It was communication was never off. And I think the relationship that we created had such a great foundation that many relationships don't really have because
Yeah.
we had to communicate, over communicate in order to, because we had that physical barrier.
Yeah.
Most relationships, you might see somebody, you're going on dates, but the in-depth conversations and like just the where somebody's mind is isn't really developed through just regular relationships. So I think having that separation actually made us very close and created a foundation that is just amazing.
Awesome. No, what was the support like from your friends, your family, those in your network when you decided to date someone that is incarcerated?
Yeah, I always made it clear that I'm dating a person who happens to be incarcerated, right? Like, so circumstantially, we can't control where people are or where they're from and what they do. But I had ample support from my friends.
Yeah.
They knew what time he would call me. And so they knew, like, if I got to get off the phone, it was no, like, oh my God, it was never that. Like, they would send messages to him like, "Yo, tell him I said,
Yes.
hey, keep his head up," all of those things. Also was very careful with who I shared information with in terms of
Yeah.
my relationship because that's something sacred. And I
Yeah.
do understand that people project their unsolicited opinions on you for whatever
Yeah.
reason because of judgment of what they wouldn't do. And nobody knows what they would do until they're in a situation for real.
Definitely.
So,
Awesome.
um, yeah, I had support, great
Awesome.
support.
Now, you've worked in nonprofit, media, transportation, education. Was there a specific season or moment where you realized your work needed to change and not just evolve?
Yes, my work changed when I was working at the school,
Hmm.
and one of my students who was aspiring to be an attorney walked into my office and he said, "Miss, you are bigger than this place.
Yeah.
I need you to expand." He was like, "Nah, like there's just so much more to you." And I
Mhm.
took that to heart because it's like sometimes you could get comfortable in a situation, in a particular role with a particular title and not realize like there's more that you can give. And in that moment, it resonated with me to know that I can do more not being in one place
Yeah.
and also embracing all that I have to offer to the world, all that I have to contribute, all my talents and gifts were nurtured in church. And I
Hmm.
feel like that's something that people kind of like they underestimate how church upbringing can support you in
Yeah.
being multi hyphenate. And the church is where I started speaking. That's where I started my leadership,
Yeah.
if you will, through church.
So you spent 8 years driving over 6,500 rides. What did that time behind the wheel teach you that a traditional MBA wouldn't?
Yeah, ooh, everything. It taught me everything because I got to see human beings and I still get to see them
Yeah.
in real time. Whether you're an executive, whether you're a single parent, I get to see you when you're on your way to work, when you're coming home from work, when you're on your way to a meeting. Somebody even requested a ride, and I happened to be taking them from their home. She was going into labor, contracting in my car, and I'm
Yeah.
bringing her to the hospital. So you get to see all of these different variables of people's lives that you would not get that interaction with. Like when you're
Yeah.
in transit with people, you get to see the anxiety that happens if they have a meeting coming up, or
Hmm.
if they just had a bad meeting and they needed to decompress, or if they had a breakup. Like I got to
Yeah.
see humanity in real time and just be able to have so much conversation to just build.
Right. So now you've piqued my interest in regards. You did this for 8 years. So I guess this was the foundation of starting your own brand. Now, walk me through the history behind it, how you decided on the name and your target audience.
For my chauffeur company?
Yes, yes, elegant chauffeur.
Yeah, so I literally started it 10 days after driving Uber and Lyft. So I've had the company since January 10th. We just made 9 years actually,
Wow.
2017. And I was driving New Year's Eve, so 2016 going into 2017, and the first passengers in my vehicle were women. And they were like, "Oh
Yeah.
my God, a female driver. This is so amazing." And I was like, "Okay, this is cool." And I understood, like, sometimes there are like creep experiences that people experience when
Yeah.
driving with, people. And so I felt safe and the women felt safe. So then this pattern I recognized where people, women especially, were like, "Oh my God, a female driver." Like they got to have like expressed conversations where women can just like understand each other.
Yeah.
And I realized there was a niche. They kept asking for my phone number. And so I said, "You know what? I need to make this a business." And I did.
Hmm.
I got some business cards printed immediately and I just worked it. So I was still doing Uber, but I was just learning people, and people were
Yeah.
just, if they asked me, "Do you have a card?" I would give it, but I wouldn't just solicit but if
Hmm.
they asked me, I was ready. And that literally transformed. I've had history working in hospitality as well. And that's the approach that I have with my chauffeur company. Like my customer service is A1. I think about the things that the customer is not even thinking about. Sorry, client is not even thinking about. And I manage it where I know my clients like, what they don't like, from temperature to the food, if they have restaurant recommendations that they're looking for, things like that. And it gives a really well-rounded experience that most people cannot get from a regular rideshare app. Like I get
Hmm.
to know my clients in a way that serves them well, and then they refer.
Awesome. All right, so you won the Carver Bank pitch competition. How did that capital reshape your roadmap?
It reshaped the roadmap. That was my first pitch competition ever, which was great. And we won $10,000 to start converting my fleet into an electric fleet. And so we utilized that to acquire an EV, and that is the Cadillac Lyric. And through that, we were on the road. I specifically was on the road, and I had a client in the EV, and the car shut down. We were half a mile from a charging station, and that was the worst range anxiety that I've had. And so it literally shut off at a stoplight, and the state troopers and police had to come because I was literally holding up traffic.
Mhm.
So I called OnStar. They were trying to send somebody, but the police said, we'll get a tow truck here to you. The tow truck cost me $200 just to go half a mile to charge the car.
Yeah.
The next morning, I woke up with the idea like I did not need a tow. I actually needed some energy to get to the charging station.
Hmm.
And that's where Charging C was born. So I would say from Carver's like seed money essentially to
Yeah.
help convert my fleet, then introduced me to a new problem that needed a solution. And that's where Charging C was born. So yeah.
Which year was this?
This was 2024.
Oh, well, 2 years ago, because we're now in
Yeah.
2026. Now, you continue to break barriers. Oh, you lead multiple ventures, consulting, transportation, media, tech.
Mhm.
So, how do you find time? How do you decide what gets your time and what gets paused?
I have become a systems girl now. I've created systems. Like I even have a call later today to help
Yeah.
me learn Notion from a
Hmm.
Notion expert to maximize that system to help me just balance my calendar and my time in a way that is efficient and serves me when it comes to rest because a lot of multi-hyphenate entrepreneurs experience burnout if you don't have the right system. So having calculated systems, incorporating my personal wellness into my day is very critical for me to be the best leader that I can be.
So, what's the hardest financial lesson you had to learn as a purpose driven entrepreneur?
The biggest financial lesson, the biggest finance, yeah, because I've learned so much, but I think the biggest financial lesson came later because I started to learn about living trust and just how to establish your financial house. And I
Hmm.
think I would have done a better job with like building business credit had I not been working backwards. But if I had that right information early on, there would have been another level of access to capital that I would have had. It's never too late because I know it now. So
Yeah.
things have evolved, and I support founders with establishing their business in such a way that they will be credible and capital ready.
Yeah.
So everything I just, repurpose into.
Definitely. So for Elegant Chauffeur, do you own the fleet or you operate through drivers, same like Uber?
So I own a fleet. I have 3 vehicles in particular, a Mercedes Sprinter, a Cadillac Lyriq, and a GMC Yukon. And then if I do need to outsource or dispatch, I have a network of drivers, of 100 drivers. And then this year, I'm actually opening up my own chauffeur school. So
Okay.
I'll be able to teach the standard that we have. So now we can onboard drivers that
Hmm.
are vetted, backed by us, trained by us to be able to replicate the model that we exemplify.
Awesome. All right. So you have the type of vehicles you drive. Are all your drivers female?
No,
No. Okay.
no, no. Well, we do have a strong female network of drivers, but
Hmm.
even when it comes to Uber, I got reached out to from Lyft and from Uber for particular partnerships, and I learned that only 5% of the drivers in New York are female.
Hmm.
Not that many when it comes to professional driving, but I'm here to change that. So
Now, on a day to day for this business, how many bookings would you typically get?
it varies. It varies because airport
Hmm.
um Sometimes I have corporate contracts, so I will have Monday, Wednesday, Friday with a particular client.
Yeah.
It really varies, but I would say on average, maybe 2 a day, maybe 1 a day because some people book you for the entire day.
Mm-hmm.
So it really varies.
Do you still drive?
I
For
do,
you do.
I do, but not as much as I once did.
So let me ask, why still do it? Why not step back and allow those you have working with you handle that part?
I think a part of it is because I have my own touch, and
Hmm.
some people just prefer me to be the driver. Like I am the face of the brand. And
Yeah.
so the expectation is that it is me, which is why I said I'm opening up the chauffeur school because now if I teach the standard, then you're still going to get the effect of me, but it
Yeah.
is the company, Elegant Chauffeurs, and that allows me to, take a back seat. But I love driving because I get to learn, I get to see new places, I get to have new conversations and build relationships with people. And I
Yeah.
think that just adds a level of trust to the relationships that are being developed.
All right. So it's based in New York. Before I get to even expanding to other parts of the US and probably franchising, 'cause probably that's in your plans. How do you market? You're in New York competing with Lyft and Uber and other ride sharing platforms. How do you go about marketing and getting those clients to trust you instead of those platforms?
Yeah, it's been a struggle because I have not been the best at marketing my company. I just allow people to do like word of mouth referrals. But now I'm seeing the need to market in a
Mhm.
way that I'll be able to sustain it, right? Because I know the traction is going to come and I want to be able to fulfill it at the highest standard. But I always say that we save people time.
Yeah.
We do the groundwork, especially for our executives who have to get to work, but now they need a safe environment to be productive. So many
Mhm.
times I'll have clients in the morning, 4 a.m. in the morning, they're on their way to the office. I'm driving, so I take off the mental load for them, and now they get to work comfortably in the back.
Mhm.
Sometimes when you're not familiar with the driver, you're kind of like looking to
To
see
see.
how they
Yeah.
drive in. You don't really know that they know your route. And so you're on edge. When you're riding with elegant chauffeurs, you're relaxed, honestly, and you get to where you are safely, quickly with respect to your time. Because some other companies too, they thrive off the fact that the longer someone is in their car, the more money they make. We're
Yeah.
trying to get you to your destination as soon as possible. We're not
Mhm.
hourly, on that type of time, just trying to get out of you. We're trying to get you the best service possible so that way you come back. It's not about a one time thing. We're trying to create a lifetime experience.
So you've maintained a 5-star rating since the existence of your business. What are the
Mhm.
top three non-negotiables that separate you from everybody else?
I think respect sounds simple, but having
Hmm.
manners goes a
Hmm.
long way. Addressing people, addressing their humanity, and having respect for their time, I think. And then also I open doors. I help with luggage. I help facilitate the ease with like
Yeah.
I add that hospitality to it and that's a non-negotiable. So our tagline is where elegance is standard, not an option. So
Yeah. So you've started a new company,
mhm,
Chargency. You're
mhm.
solving EV mobility gaps. What's the revenue model?
Still being worked out is I trademarked the name.
Mm.
And it is going to be the proprietary technology for a person that needs charge and people that have the equipment to do so to find each
Yeah.
other. So
Okay.
similar to the technology platforms that Lyft and Uber are, because they're not transportation companies, they're tech
Yeah.
companies. And they just create the way for these people to connect with each other. So doing that similarly, in addition to having our own vans that are able to be deployed in our region to be able to help save someone from getting a tow. and just getting some charge and some energy to get to the next charging station.
Now, what's the long-term plan for that? Like, run me through your 5-year strategy for that company.
Child, I don't have it yet. I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't have it yet. I'm looking for a team to create a
Mm-hmm.
team to help build out what that strategy could look like because I might miss something. But essentially, I just want it to be a very high tech company to be able to have this capability of people finding people, right, for that service. So as big as Uber, as big as Lyft, like those are tech companies that provide the service. MasterCard is also a tech company. Most people think it's a bank and it's no, it's a fintech company. So I just want it to be more energy tech to support the development. And even in America, there's such a push for people to transition into EVs. And
Mm-hmm.
so the infrastructure has not caught up yet. And so I know that I'm ahead of the curve with even this, like thinking about this,
Yeah.
but it's going to be a huge problem if we don't create the infrastructure.
All right. So is there an exit play, a legacy piece that you want to share, to leave in terms of your companies?
Exit play. Think the chauffeur company having its own school, Chargency. I would love for it to just be something that I create and exit at a
Yes.
very nice number. But my Created to Inspire agency, I want that like forever because I do know that I empowered people to know that they were created to inspire. And that also is where I'll be teaching my methodology to future consultants. So that framework lives on. I do believe in writing books, publishing books, because those things outlive you. I
Yeah.
read books from Napoleon Hill that was written in 1920. Who knew that I would be reading it
Yeah.
126 years later, right? He probably did. He knew that your words have power and
Mhm.
when it's good words, it reflects beyond generations.
I want you to walk me through a typical day in your life. You're a serial entrepreneur. You have so many things doing, but you also have time for yourself. So walk me through a typical day from what time you wake up to the time you close your eyes at night,
Um,
and one of your busier days.
Unless I have meeting schedules and I look at my calendar from the night before, then
Hmm.
I wake up with at least a 2-hour head start.
Yeah.
So I'll work out, I'll get some tea or some coffee and get ready. Like I like to get dressed, even though I work remotely for the most part with my client. I still like to be dressed and ready. And then I start having my meetings, have it up set until a certain time. So that way I have the rest of my day to do whatever I need to do in terms of recaps, scheduling, going through any upcoming trips that I might need to dispatch.
Yeah.
And then in the evening, I'm watching a podcast or a master class or something to kind of feed my mind. I love to cook. So I make sure that I'm cooking my dinner, my meals, and then I like to sleep too. So I go to bed. But I love to cook Jamaican food. Like, yeah. But I like to experiment. So over the summer I learned how to make sushi. So then I was making oxtail and putting it in my sushi.
You co-lead Loving You into Freedom, supporting justice impacted families. So I want to know, how do you, or how does your logistics background support this mission?
It supports it in a very important way. We recently rolled out Life Express, which is a transportation extension where Elegant Chauffeurs and Loving Into Freedom collaborate to support with visitation transportation for loved ones who live in New York City, going upstate to see their loved
Yeah.
ones. And then also from the logistics standpoint of food and care packages, New York State in 2022 stopped having families send their loved ones food packages because there was a lot of contraband coming in. So we got approved as a vendor where
Yeah.
families can purchase their groceries for their loved ones through us to be able to send it to them because we are an approved vendor. So that allows the logistical framework. as well to be embedded in the services that we offer for, food and nutrition, travel, as well as wellness.
Hmm.
Um, so just understanding what the needs are and then figuring out who we need to plug into and connect with to be able to support families as well as individuals who are returning.
All right. So three businesses or four or five masters, 6,500 rides. What did you have to sacrifice personally to build all of this?
I sacrifice any chance of mediocrity being an option.
Yeah.
Like that's just I always figure things out, and I think I sacrifice not being lazy
Yeah.
or choosing to be lazy. That's a sacrifice because some people choose that easy route, and it's like that's not an option for me. I gotta figure things out, and I also didn't really cop out to going back to corporate America. I
Uh-huh.
tried it out last year. I worked for 3 months, got fired on my 90th day, and I think God was just like, "Yeah, that's not for you."
So what happened? Why you decided to go back to corporate, and if you don't mind sharing the reason why you were terminated?
Yeah, so I think I went back because driving kind of slowed up. It was like a slow season in a way, but I don't think I was going about my business from, let's say, a more leadership level with like trying to create partnerships.
Yeah.
I thought that I just needed to rely back on or tap back into the fact that I do have a degree and seeing how to utilize that with anybody that, with any organizations locally that I can support with my public administration degree. And I think it was a managerial position, but I don't think it was aligned because the industry that it was in wasn't necessarily my wheelhouse, was capable of maybe consulting for the agency versus working in it. And I think there's a distinction there when it comes to what you're applying for, but it reinvigorated my approach to leadership. It reignited me to make things work through my business. So literally a week, I give myself a week to sulk and be upset and be sad. And then I was able to just transmute that energy back into my business. And so I got on a different mission. Now I'm applying to grants. I'm looking to become a government contractor. Like it just literally fired me up. Like I literally got fired and fired up. I'm gonna use that. But it wasn't expected, and I think I really went back for health insurance. I just wanted some health insurance, and I got it. It was helpful. I had all my, like, appointments within that 90-day period. I was good. But they said that it wasn't a good fit, and I would have to agree with them because similar to how I said my student was like, "You're bigger than this place," that was the case also with that particular organization, and I think I'm gonna double back and present myself to them as a consultant versus actually working in the company.
I love that. Fired and fired up. Now,
Yeah.
in terms of the business where you help entrepreneurs, founders use their stories to, build their brand. How long have you been doing that, and what inspired you to do that one?
So I used to write a lot of Facebook posts, and in 2014 is when I can remember I started using the hashtag created to inspire. It was
Yeah.
something that I realized like I was created to inspire, and I believe everybody was created to inspire. In 2021, I applied for my business in that name, created to inspire, but I never used it. I
Mm-hmm.
literally had it sitting. It's been like a shelf company now for 5 years. And when I got fired, I was like, well, I already named it an agency and I had the website, I had all the things, but I hadn't been pushing it because I was not maybe sure or confident in the fact that, yeah, I am actually good at consulting. And so I just realized that I've gone to a lot of professional development seminars, And I've gone to a lot of personal development seminars or read personal development books. I've written personal development books, but very seldom do we see it merged together. And that's where I realized the infrastructure around fusing the two is
Yeah.
essential because you can't be better professionally if you're not better personally. And so the agency provides a collaborative kind of leadership development where you're also developing your mind, your mental state, how you think and believe in yourself, your identity. Then that translates into your executive presence, how you tell your story, how, even if you are working in corporate or a nonprofit or anything, how you show up personally affects how you show up professionally. And so I've been able to just really own that lane, and I've been working with so many founders,
Yeah.
small business owners. I've been posting way more on LinkedIn, and I've been supporting people by giving complimentary strategy sessions that unlock so much for people. And so I just reset the consultation page created to inspire, and
Mm-hmm.
it's been just gaining so much traction. And it's a reminder that sometimes you plant seeds in another season. Because think about it, 2020, 2014,
Yeah.
2021, but now it's being activated 2025, 2026. Sometimes you just gotta set the thing in motion and then
Wait.
circle back to
Mm.
it.
Yeah. All right. So you're 36, if my math is correct.
Yes, it is.
Black woman. How difficult is it for you building a business in the United States?
I wouldn't say it's difficult, and I think that's a misconception. I
Mm-hmm.
think America is probably the best place to be as a business owner, as a Black
Mm-hmm.
woman, an entrepreneur, whether you're Black or whether you're a woman. America is the place. And I
Yeah.
feel like so many people take time to complain rather than searching for opportunity or creating their own opportunity. And so anytime I get a no, though, it just pushed me to dive deeper on who's going to give me a yes. And so I think that's the persistence that I have as a Black woman that, oh, you underestimating me? Okay, let me go over here. Let me create my own, because I guarantee when I do that and you see results, now you're gonna be the one trying to come back to partner, and I get to choose whether I want to do business with you. So I've used it as a superpower. I've used it to my advantage. Where even sometimes I would have conversations with people in a car, some people would ignore me, right? Like when I was doing rideshare, they'd
Mm-hmm.
come in and they'll say nothing. And I'm like, hello, good morning. And it's like you're invisible. And to me, like when you're getting on a plane and you see a pilot, you're like, hi, because you trust that they are going to get you
Yeah.
to your destination. Well, in ground transportation, we are pilots as well. And so I feel like if you don't have respect, there's no way that we could even do business together because you can't even share common mannerism, right? So it
Mhm.
it teaches how people can discard you as a human being
Yeah.
sometimes, but it also lets you know that certain the way that people treat you are projections of just who they are, and it might not have anything to do with you personally.
What's one piece of advice you'd give to the version of you who is still behind the wheel?
One piece of advice that I would give to the version of me that is behind the wheel. Don't hide behind the wheel. Utilize the wheel as a tool, but don't hide. Like, you know that you're capable. Stand in your confidence, stand in who you are,
Yeah.
because being hidden in plain sight isn't necessarily going to get you to where you desire to go.
Awesome. What's one action someone can take this week if they want to move from service provider to?
The one action is to decide. Decide that you actually already are a CEO. As a service provider, you're the chief when it comes to how that service is getting delivered, who you show up to be. So it literally is a decision. If you decide to call yourself a CEO, then guess what? Your actions should start following that behavior, that title that you're giving yourself. So
Hmm.
decide, make the decision and commit to the decision.
Awesome. Now, my final question is, how important is it to have the support of your mother? Because your mother could have said, "No, Crystal, you need to go look a 9 to 5." How
Oh, but she
important is it?
did.
How many times?
Many times. Whenever my car would get in trouble, I'll just give this thing up. Just give it up and go get a job. Go get a regular job. Go get it. And I was like, regular job will like I'm qualified in the sense of degrees that I can. And I proved that last year.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I set my sight on a job, I can go get one. You know,
Mm-hmm.
whether I'm okay with the pay or not, that's
It's a
relative.
different story.
But yeah, the support, I'm gonna say, my mom's support comes from not imposing what
Mm-hmm.
I should do.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of like, because I think getting a job is just the safety of a mom to
Yeah.
feel
Mm-hmm.
like, I don't want you stressed out. I want you to feel like you have a check coming in every 2 weeks. But I
Mm-hmm.
do feel like since mommy was not an entrepreneur in that level,
Yeah.
it's hard to recommend or understand what somebody's doing if you don't have experience there. So she's had experience in a job. So she's only going to support or be able to recommend from experience a job, right? So, but I think my mom has done a very, very, very great job in just all my ideas. She's like, okay,
Yeah. Where do you think you got this entrepreneurial spirit from?
I don't know.
That's a
I
tricky one.
don't know. I don't know. And I don't know if it's from our dad. I don't. I don't know. But it probably is, right? Because from what I understand, he has like trade experience,
Yeah.
right? And when you have a trade, you can work that trade. So I'm pretty sure somehow that's embedded in our genes, right? Like somehow, right? So maybe him, but also realizing that I know my mom wanted to give me certain things, but she couldn't because things were limited.
Yeah.
And so just knowing that if I want to get certain things, I have to be creative with how else I supplement my income. And so I think just knowing that other people in the country are thriving through entrepreneurship. So there has to be like some room in that for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I took a chance and it's been very fruitful.
Yeah. All right. So there's a young lady listening this, and she's stuck between entrepreneurship and 9 to 5 and jumping between both roles. What would you say to her?
Girl, do both. Do both. If you have a job, right? If you have a 9 to 5, what is the creative entrepreneurial idea that can support you after work? Because you have a 9 to 5 and you can also have a 5 to 9.
Mm-hmm.
So after you get done with, whatever you're skilled at doing, your expertise, then in the evening you're being creative. But somehow when you're working on both, your business should be able to grow where then now you get to fire your 9 to 5 or you get
Mm-hmm.
to choose to do that if you want to, but it's not your only option.
Yeah.
And I think that is how I transitioned into entrepreneurship full time. My job cut my salary. So
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to supplement my income. I didn't want to just quit mid school year with my students. So I started driving Uber. And then a year and a half into drive, I made so much money driving Uber. It was
Yeah.
like a shock to my system. I was like, I could just make money
Yeah.
every day and cash out every day. Like this was fantastic. It opened my eyes. And so a year and a half later, I decided to leave the job on my own terms
Mm-hmm.
and go full time on what was, making me money, but
Yeah.
also not just getting addicted to that drive. Cause then I had to transition into driving 10 hours a day.
Mm-hmm.
As a woman, you should not be driving that long all day. Like, you know what I'm saying? So definitely working in a way that transitions from what you have to do to now what you want to do or you get to do. And yeah, do both until you don't have to as like a segue.
We're going 10 years into the future. You're now 46.
Ooh.
What
Okay.
does
I'm gonna close my
life,
eyes.
yes, what does life look like at 46? What would you say to that woman at 46?
Ooh, that woman. That's a wealthy woman right there. She's finally in her flow of like just generation. She's continuing to lead through being creative, being a visionary. But all of her basic needs and then some are already met, all of her systems are in place. She is probably in Dubai, maybe
Mm-hmm.
like working for a year, just locationally in a different place, and supporting clients over there. But I do feel like 10 years from now, what I figured out from 10 years ago,
Yeah.
I'm in such a different place that I can only imagine at 46. It's gonna be beautiful. Jill Scott recently said, "You," I don't want to get it wrong. Hold on. She said, "You work hard in your 20s, you
Mm-hmm.
work smart in your 30s, you work how you want in your 40s, when you want to in your 50s, and finally, if you want to in your 60s."
Makes
So
sense.
I'm looking forward to working how I want to
Mm-hmm.
in my 40s.
Crystal, my dear sister, I want to thank you for this. You know, you didn't just talk strategy, you've lived it. You showed us what it means to turn real life miles into meaningful movement. So, here's what I took from this. Every experience, no matter how small, contains market research. Ownership starts when you stop waiting for permission, and your story is not a liability. It's a system waiting to be built. So, I want to thank you again for joining me today on the Business Behind the Story podcast. I'm Stephen Stanbury, and I'll see you in the next one.